Yeah, you're right. So sometimes post-colonial theologians in American context tended to be much influenced by very nihilistic French structuralistic
Yeah, yeah, I know,
theoreticians. That's the
I know,
problem today.
I know.
But however, post-colonial theology or theory must be also reformulated in terms of the neo-colonial condition. Maybe
Absolutely.
Johan Galtung in Norway, or Johan Galtung provided very insightful analysis of
Hmm.
neo-colonialism.
Yes, yes.
Maybe more than dependent theory, he provides a very
Hmm.
keen insight of a world system
Yeah,
in the neo-colonial condition. So
yes,
that logic of neo-colonial condition is very much conditioned by penetration, exploitation,
of
and
course,
cultural destruction and ecological crisis, etc., etc.
of course,
In
of course.
fact, it is much more kind of variable than previous dependent theory because the latter is too much focused on the development and growth rather than
Right.
having more concern about the ecological integrity. That
Exactly.
issue is today
I fully
still
agree. I fully
still.
agree.
Mhm, mhm. But I hope prophetic theology and liberation theology and public theology in the third world, maybe in South Korea, they should work
Yes,
together in more cooperative, collaborative spirit,
abs absolutely. Because the public, of course, is part of liberation theology. And I mean, if you want to just formulate it, reformulate it, because if liberation theology is not addressing the public power system,
Yeah.
the whole question of actors,
Mhm,
who
mhm,
who who are the historic actors
mhm.
to bring about change,
Yeah.
etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
Mhm.
So that is, I mean, in that sense, do not misunderstand me. I'm not against public in the theology, but I'm only against, I mean, using that term for producing illusions
Yeah, yeah.
by leaving out the need for systemic change.
Yeah, you're right. The assimilation to a status quo
Yeah,
is a
right.
very much kind of problematic within the context of public theology. But
Yeah,
however,
yeah,
that dimension should be renewed by challenge of prophetic liberation theology, I
right,
think.
right, right.
Okay, by the way, you for the global connection and communication, so still our center, historian debate and public sphere or public theology, still we very much interested in the historical debate, okay, historical dimension of public issue and
Hmm.
also a global issue.
Hmm.
For the global connection and communicative forces, how do you see transitional justice? So, society from the previous social order toward another social order, frequently, such a kind of violence and massacre would occur. It is called a kind of transitional justice. And my home country, my birthplace, the Jeju Island, is a very beautiful city, a very beautiful place. But during the period of U.S. colonialism, military colonialism, just after liberation from Japan, 1945, so U.S. military authority occupied southern part of Korea, against the Soviet Union, part of occupation of North Korea. But still, such an ideological division continue to up to date. So, in fact, people on the Jeju Island were victimized as a scapegoat through ideological propaganda as Komi or Red Island because they are deeply challenged a kind of very Sungmanly government, which is very much kind of based on dictatorial fascism, in fact.
Yes.
Would you you make discourse clarification and worldview interpretation to express your advocacy for the importance of transitional justice and innocent victim. Maybe your engagement with the Palestine issue could be a form of such a transitional justice and innocent victim in connection with a superpower of Israel supported by US and other Western countries, Then how do you define that issue of transitional justice and innocent victim in our own country?
Okay, first of all, very practical, you know that I visited the Jeju Islands
Oh
in
yeah, we were there.
In
Wow.
2013, we had the World Council Assembly in Busan, and then some of us also visited Jeju Islands in the context also of Peace for Life. We had a kind of how should I say, fact-finding mission with Peace for Life people in Jeju Island, and I realized that the situation is still exactly comparable to this terrible situation in the time of the massacre, because we were taking part in the protest of the people against the building of the military, the marine military harbor.
Marine Corps,
And the whole population was very much against it. And I remember there was a Buddhist monk, and we from the Christian group and others. So we kneeled in front of the door of that military basis.
Oh yeah, it was a Kangjung village issue.
Yes,
Kangjung village.
Yes, yes, exactly, and it was very impressive because this is natural reserve where they built the violent machinery for warships, etc. So it's very present in my memory. And also, of course, it is also very much related to a new kind of polarization that we had there, namely with China. So 30 kilometers from the coast of China, they build that military harbor.
Right.
In the midst of so it's not just an historic issue we are talking about. It's very present, and that relates to the main question in terms of transitionary justice. How to, geopolitically, after the breaking down of the Soviet Union, the United States really were, in reality, the only superpower. So we had a unipolar world system. But of course, in the meantime, China grew up, and also Russia is not to be underestimated. So our hope from the beginning was to develop from a unilateral imperial system to a multipolar system, so that there is a kind of system in which there are, of course, differences and even contradictions in terms of interest, but to be solved in structures of common security. And in that way, in several ways, we tried to work. We is Kairos Europa, is ecumenical movement, etc., etc. Now, it is very unfortunate that the United States decided not to develop into a kind of multipolar polar system. But although it is not anymore the only superpower, it tries to do so and act just aggressively and in military logic, in war logic, etc. And I am very, very disappointed about the Europeans, because the Europeans could have seen that this kind of allegiance with the United States, in that way of a former unilateral imperial power, would not really look at their own interest. And their own interest, of course, is not to be a satellite of this United States, but is a system in which Europe develops what was started by Willy Brandt in Germany, the common security, and also then propagated by Gorbachev in terms of the common European house. You see, that would have been our advantage. But the United States used the fears of the Eastern Europeans who had experienced Russian oppression and somehow circumvented, together with NATO, all agreements that would have led to common security. They pushed the NATO to the fronts, and you know what now the result is. So it is dramatic. There was a dramatically wrong development, and Europe, not realizing their own interest, have played their part in it. So now we are in a kind of deadlock. And so in terms of our attempts is to bring back this perspective of common security. And also, it is so absolutely clear that it is humanity which is in danger by the global capitalist system. Now, we need to put together all our forces to overcome that threat of killing our... So in that sense, the question of transitional justice is to learn from these historic, terrible experience, like the massacre of the Jeju people, how to develop in every aspect cooperative structure instead of, using this kind of imperial competition and polarizing mentality. And I think we as churches and social movements have a lot to do to overcome, especially also as the media are, of course, part of this whole wrong development, because they amplify the voices for the military logic against the peace logic. And so we have, at the moment, we have to fight however we can to change that perspective again from war to cooperation. And I think that is the key point in terms of the transitional justice. It is dramatic what we have to do in that respect.
Right, very fine, because that transitional justice is still occurring in Ukraine war. It's not merely kind of historical, but just a contemporary,
Yeah.
How do you think that transitional justice in Ukraine war today, and especially natural gas problem between Germany and Russia, is still kind of so debatable and very, worrisome?
Of course, if we go into that issue, of course, it's a complex analysis which is needed. I mean, the clear. I mean, the first clear aspect in the analysis is that this is a war between the United States and Russia.
Oh, yeah.
And as I already said, United States, did not, and Europe let it go, did not follow that possibility of that Gorbachev had opened, but just wanted to continue their imperial capitalism as usual. In all, I mean, including Obama, all have followed that same line. And I mean, so now the key, and then with, so the result is that finally Putin thought it's the last moment to hinder Ukraine come to the NATO, and we have another thousands of kilometers. That's, I mean, the United States wanted to make war when the missiles came to Cuba. Yeah? All the time they are doing this with Russia. And so therefore, I mean, I don't know whether you know, but there was in the beginning negotiations between Russia and Ukraine for compromises. And it was nearly successful. In that moment, Johnson was sent by Biden to Ukraine to stop the negotiations. Because the United States changed from peace to victory. They want victory. They want to destroy Russia as much as possible. You see? Now, therefore, the key point now is to win again broad public support and broad movements for getting back to negotiations and making compromises, and so against the United States. Yeah? So I mean, it's absolutely dramatic because, of course, people are losing their lives. And of course, you have to know there is another problem. Ukraine is not innocent, but they have also sabotaged the peace treaty of Minsk by not developing a form of independence, of relative independence of the eastern provinces. But what they did was they got together with the Americans, arming them to the teeth and training them for war with Russia, and having all the time, attacking the eastern provinces militarily. So the Ukraine has not, I mean, like, of course, the Germans and the French should have pushed them more. Yes, but I don't know whether you know the Treaty of Minsk, but that was a way to peace. So it's a very sad and bad coalition between those war forces in the United States and Ukraine and also Eastern European countries, who just see Russia in the light of military logic and not in the logic of peace and cooperation. And so coming to that perspective again, that is the most needed for transitional justice.
Wow. Thank you very much, because it is difficult to hear about that exact information, from the U.S. mass media. The U.S. media is always trying to colonize our consciousness, then blaming Russia as to be a sole responsibility and so. But thank you for your very great information and your very keen analysis. So, for conclusion, Ulrich Duchrow is a prolific scholar and practitioner involved in the global networks of Kairos Europa and Lutheran World Federation and World Council of Churches. in an advocacy for social movements and church responsibility. He promoted a kind of economic justice, interreligious solidarity, human rights of innocent victims in Palestine, and ecological integrity. As a prophetic Christian, he sails the rough seas of global crisis with theological skill, sunk deep in a prophetic legacy of the confessing church, as embodied in Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and also Reformation thought of Martin Luther continues to be radicalized in this move. Thank you very much, Ulrich Duchrow, your participation and your excellent kind of argument and prophetic vision. Thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you, Paul. It was great talking with you.
Thank you. So we'll see
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, yeah, bye-bye.